Meghan Markle has had a catastrophically awful week. Despite the launch of her series With Love, Meghan, she is getting massive criticism for how she interacted with Mindy Kaling, who is well beloved for her role on The Office. You also have the very strangeness of her sudden demands that everybody call her Megan Sussex, despite her not changing it on her social media, on her brand, or anything. All of a sudden, she's randomly Megan Sussex on Drew Barrymore. You have the Drew Barrymore interaction itself, which is insanely awkward and cringy, in addition to Meghan literally backing away from a picture of her mother-in-law. Literally, she is cringing, walking away from the woman she claims to want to emulate. What is going on behind there? And why really is Meghan completely and utterly stalling out? I think when we look back at this time period, a couple years, couple months from now, this will be the moment everybody looks at and goes, this is when Meghan lost it. This is when her catastrophic fall really truly began. It is this moment, this week, because she has finally, truly, everybody is aware of the shallow person Meghan is. How she, yes, dresses up everything in beautiful florals, but it doesn't hide that there's really not too much going on behind the surface. And I think Meghan is petrified that despite all of her efforts to come back, as it turns out, maybe there just wasn't an audience there for her to get. So guys, we will get into this today, but if you haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany. I provide compelling royal commentary, so if you guys want to hit that subscribe button, that would be absolutely fantastic. I also have a video I did yesterday talking about Meghan's whole Meghan Sussex thing. And I did just want to clarify and actually put a link below for a Substack I did trying to explain the whole title thing, because I think I probably wasn't too clear in that other video, which is that, yes, Meghan can kind of sort of technically use Meghan Sussex, but at the same time, it really doesn't make a ton of sense. And there are really weird things going on here that I think reflect what my ultimate conclusion of that video was, is that Meghan, in my opinion, hates with a fiery passion that her husband and children are royals. And she, in reality, is not really. She can't stand that. So she has to bring them all back to her level in order for her to feel, I think, secure or whatever, even though there are plenty of actresses out there who have different last names than their children. Meghan is clinging to this aspect of royalty because without that, she doesn't have any. Because literally, the only name she can use is courtesy of her husband. Without it, she has nothing. So if you guys are interested in a more detailed breakdown, because again, I feel like I probably could have done better in yesterday's video. I was just so fired up because I was like, what is she doing? Feel free to click the link down below for the Substack. It'll be the first one up there. I'll put a link up above too. And it explains it all very well. I've been told. I posted it on X earlier, and I've already had a bunch of people sign up for the newsletter, and I've had people say already that it was a great explanation. So I really hope it helps. Check it out. And starting off with, we must reiterate once again, because I keep hearing this in different things. No, Meghan cannot be a Mountbatten Windsor. Those are only for direct lines to the crown. So Meghan is not a blood royal. That's simply it. That's simply the reality of the situation. Same thing with Catherine, Sophie. If you marry into the royal family, you are not really considered royal in some ways. Now, people can argue about semantics, but there is something to the effect of, if you don't know, is that blood runs thicker than water here. And blood really does matter. It really does. So even though Catherine's children will have the Mountbatten Windsor name, she cannot, because even though their family is a family, she is not blood royal. It just really does matter in the royal sphere. I don't know what else to tell people. And I think to begin with, let's talk about Meghan's weird insecurity about that all of a sudden, because it's strange. It's strange. Her all of a sudden proclamation that I am Meghan Sussex is like, what? Where did this come from? Why are you doing this now in particular? And yes, we covered this a bit yesterday, but what I actually want to focus on now is that this could have been done well, but like everything surrounding Meghan Markle, and this is a theme throughout this whole video, is she botches it 6 ways from Sunday. She is so, I think, consumed and insecure in so many different things that she just says, okay, now you're calling me Meghan Sussex. And Drew Barrymore seems like, sure, I guess. Why? Well, that's just because. Now, I don't know if Meghan said that or her team said that, but this could have been slowly rolled out. And if Meghan Markle was going to go this route, then she needs to commit to it. She needs to commit to the bit. So, what does that mean? That means her brand, her show, her Instagram accounts, everything should all say Meghan Sussex, but they all still say Duchess of Sussex. So it's like she's trying to split the baby and do too many things at once. Because now, again, guys, we've been talking about this with the launch and chaos of the brands and everything. She has 6 slots now going. She has Megan, the brand. She has As Ever, With Love, American Riviera Orchard, because believe it or not, that still technically exists because she put the name out there and then could bring it to fruition. Now we have Duchess of Sussex and Megan Sussex. Which is it? This is a huge glaring problem for her. It seems like she's having an identity crisis and it's playing out publicly. That's never usually a good thing. Never usually a good thing for your identity crisis to play out publicly because it's just one of those things where people are just getting confused because Megan needs to be clarifying. And instead, she's murky. Royal titles, most people just don't pay that much attention to what they mean, how they work, yada, yada, yada. I do because I'm a nerd. So I sort of know how some of this stuff works. And so I try to explain it, but people are still ignorant. And she's sort of banking on that ignorance. Yet at the same time, people are also just like, wait, why are you Sussex? I thought you were Mountbatten Windsor. Wait, I thought you were Meghan Markle. What is going on? And I think when it came to the launch of this series, if Meghan Markle had been smart, and we know at this point you could almost kind of betcha that she's not, she should have stuck with one singular identity. Because when it comes to launching a brand, what you don't want to do is have brand confusion. So, As Ever and With Love Megan, she should have chosen between the two. She can't have both. She can only have one. Because now you have too many disparate things. And you already have the competing American Riviera Orchard. So, when it comes to actual products, she sort of has 3 competing brands here: the show, the actual product line, and the failed product line. Those are all now competing in the public sphere because she wasn't clear about it. And now we have different names. We have Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, or Meghan Duchess of Sussex. And then all of a sudden, Meghan Sussex. So which is it? Because the media still uses Meghan Markle, and so do most people. She uses Meghan Duchess of Sussex on her show, on her Instagram account, et cetera, and with her brand. And then also, she's also in just one instance, well, twice, on her show, she criticizes Mindy Kaling and takes a moment that could be lighthearted to chastise her guest and go, well, I'm Sussex now. And then you have all of a sudden on Drew Barrymore, Meghan Sussex. She did a little bit of this sort of dance around in People magazine. If you were going to do this in a smart way, you should have decided which name you're going to use because you can only use one Meghan Markle. And honestly, you should have just used Meghan Markle because that's what we still all use and we'll probably forever use. Ask Kate Middleton how it feels. Yeah, we still call her Kate Middleton vast majority of the time. And I know some people still get upset about that, but that is how people got to know her. That's how people got to know you. Own it. She had to choose between the 3. I think she should have chosen Meghan Markle or had a long sort of transition from Meghan Markle to Meghan Sussex, and it might have worked, and I might have been okay with it. I just think the dropping the bomb out of nowhere and just let it just isn't helping. She's not really addressing any problems, and it's not helping her to do all these softball interviews like with Drew Barrymore. This was cringe a la cringe on like the epic levels of cringe. I'm not a fan of Drew Barrymore. I think she's a little weird. I think the cookie is a little. So you might not agree with that. And that's totally fine because we all have our different tastes. That's totally fine. But Meghan Markle's fake facade and then combine it with Drew Barrymore's, which I would argue is probably also a facade, but overly feely approach is sort of an epic recipe for disaster. So let's take a watch of part of this interview, and then we shall get to the Diana bit and her sharing some of the food she brought with her, because all that is very interesting and illuminating. Yes, it is. Now, we missed some of the beginning of this because they haven't uploaded. Well, I guess they've uploaded more now. Maybe. We'll see. But they didn't upload the full interview. But let's watch this little bit here, how she describes Meghan as Meghan joins her.
Welcome, the incredible, beautiful, effervescent Meghan.
And that's a little over the top, Drew, but that is true. Number one, Meghan, those are horrible pants. They should have been burned when you wore them back in Germany. They are awful. Please burn them. There's so many clothes of hers that I would just burn. The dog is a little weird. I don't understand the dog. Maybe that's a Drew thing. I don't watch this show because I don't care, but it's a little strange.
You're just bookended and flanked by the two of us.
It's just surrounded by love.
Okay, I'm
So Drew takes a little bit, but this is, I feel like this is very Drew. I'm going to guess this is very much Drew's approach, but be more concise.
so excited.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here. I've been
Okay, this is very, of course, very, very overly gushy. You're getting the sense of this over sweetness here. And I think with the combination of Meghan's overly sweet, fake, pretentious show, this was a very stupid move on the part of Meghan's PR team. Because yes, Drew Barrymore is softball, but she's too softball. She's too squishy. She's too weird, to be quite honest. And it's almost like they're competing for fakery. Now, I don't know where Drew sits on the spectrum. She could be totally legitimate in everything she's doing. I don't know. But sort of combining Meghan's, like everybody's sort of picking up on the fakeness. Because that was sort of the disaster of her series, is that everybody's picking up on the fakeness now. We all see it. Everybody, people who weren't aware are now aware. So Meghan should have done a different show. She needs to do something maybe more hardball here and not this, because this is not working.
watching your show with love. To me, it is thoughtfulness, behavior.
Yep. How we show up for each other, how we invite people in.
So Meghan keeps pushing this narrative, and her PR team really needs to stop her because it doesn't work. Why? Because we know how she treats her family. We know how she has treated her in-laws. So she can't say that, oh, it's about bringing people together and intention and all these stupid things, which we all know she doesn't actually enact in real life. Because if you constantly say something and you don't do it, that doesn't work forever. That'll work for a while, but that won't work forever. So you watch the show and you see this entire premise with her filled with all these famous people. I mean, I think she even here claims that she had people there from like middle school. I'm like, no, you didn't. None of those people there were you knew in middle school, Meghan Markle. Like we all know that, unless I think one of them maybe, but my understanding is that you met her later. So it's like, I don't think that's true in the slightest. So you're lying. Stop with the. Anyways, at least I think she's lying. Just gotta say that for legal reasons. Anyways, this whole notion she has, she needs to drop. She needs to let it go. It's not gonna work. And I think she constantly hurts her brand even more by continuing the farce.
I feel like once I'm with someone, I mean, I like to connect. I might,
I've heard you like to connect.
octopus, I really.
Meghan looks really uncomfortable here, I think, in this whole interview. I think she's trying so hard. She's like so nervous and trying so desperately to please. And she doesn't come across as natural. Like this is, I would argue, the fakest I've ever seen her. This is so incredibly fake. And she's, I think, maybe trying to match Drew or something, but she doesn't have the air of being just somebody who's confident in herself enough to just be herself. So she's like giggly and smiling and it's just is weird. It plays off as weird.
We do.
That's so sweet,
I'm
though.
such a warm person and I love affection. How do you feel about that?
Drew is really weird. I'm sorry, guys. I love affection. I'm a warm person. What do you feel about that? Okay, sorry.
I think it's really important. We've missed human connection, certainly after the pandemic and everything else. We crave that. We crave being able to go, hi, and like, my friend, are you here? And to really be able to hold and touch and embrace someone. And so
But not her family. Again, she can't go with that line. We know she freezes people out. So she is not warm. She's not loving because we know she freezes people out. So that premise doesn't work for her. And yet she keeps trying it. I just want to tell her, stop. You're not helping yourself in the slightest. Please stop. We all know that's not true. Just let it go. You can't win. You can't win.
I think about with the show, certainly what hospitality has felt like for me is how do you make people feel comfortable? How do you show up for them in spaces where they might feel like, oh, I don't know, is this really where I should be? Go, yes.
Why didn't you do that to Catherine and William? Why didn't you try to make them feel comfortable on their level? Again, Meghan is always superimposing her view on other people. She wants to host and make them comfortable in the way she feels comfortable, rather than taking cues from them and adjusting her behavior. She becomes overbearing. I came away from that show, and I'm still not a fan. I probably will never be. But I was watching that show and I was thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, she must be awful to live with. She seems overbearing. She seems like compulsive and obsessive." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, all I want to do is get as far away from you as possible because you don't seem warm and welcoming. You seem very controlling, very sort of like everything needs to be done a certain way, and just totally and completely overbearing because everything is over the top. Nothing is sort of natural." And again, we see this here.
Yes, you belong here, and let's all have fun with it and not take it too seriously, but see each other.
You
Honestly, I don't think those people are too impressed, really. And I mean, nobody should be. She's not saying anything all that interesting. And she doesn't live what she preaches. When you don't live what you preach, everybody catches on to that. You can only pull the wool over the eyes for so long. And Meghan is a very public figure, and this doesn't work.
make life really beautiful. Like
She makes life really beautiful. That's great. But life isn't all about beauty. It's not about the aesthetic beauty, because the beauty is from within. Sometimes the beauty is within the messiness, the chaos. There is a beauty there. Meghan wants everything aesthetically to look perfect. But as we've seen with the show, it was sort of soulless and it was hollow underneath. There was nothing there. There was no warmth. There was no love. I didn't feel love from With Love Meghan. So this whole notion is just a little far-fetched, and Meghan needs to write her brand, and the way she can do that is by not going down this path that is always going to end in disaster for her, because she can never live up to what she preaches. And she has set the situation up where she will never ever live up to what she preaches unless she makes inroads back with the royal family by asking for forgiveness, by actually trying to get along with them. This premise, this idea from her will never ever work. No matter how beautiful things are, they will always be hollow and rotten underneath.
homemade kids party.
Oh, that was fun with
Stunning.
Mindy.
With Mindy Kaling, who I love.
Yeah.
She just seems so. I'm wondering, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if Meghan doesn't really want to be there, but she was told, "Hey, you need to do a show. Why don't you do this show?" She's like, okay. Because she seems to be really like, she just doesn't seem to be there. She's both trying too hard, and it looks like she's hating every second of it. And that's, as I watch it more, I'm feeling that a bit more. So I think that's what's really going on here. She's sort of despising this, and I think really feeling the pressure of whether or not this show is going to succeed.
Oh my God, she's such a rock star.
Great. But also that was what was, I think, for me, really fun about doing the series is I could have some of my older friendships that I've had since middle school even, that are still in my life.
Who was that, Meghan? Who was that? I don't remember any of those people being from your childhood. Don't remember any. I believe all of them you met as an adult. So which person was that? Don't think she's telling the full truth there.
And I think at the end of the day, you just really want to be able to show up with those people and equally meet people exactly where you are today.
Yeah.
So Mindy's a great example of that, or some of the other guests that came on that I hadn't had close bonds with, I knew a little bit of.
So, and now I'm confused at the premise, because I thought she was inviting us into her home so we could talk with her friends, but they're not really her friends. She's just admitting that. So she's destroying the premise of her own show. It's amazing. It's amazing. No wonder this week has gone so incredibly badly for her.
And then you just get to play, and you're in the kitchen playing and making mistakes and having fun together. And
We didn't see a lot of mistakes, Meghan, and we didn't see a lot of fun, to be quite honest. So again, the premise doesn't work. Joanna Gaines, I could see having fun, making mistakes, and enjoying it and going with it. I didn't really see any of that of Meghan. She worked in a pristine white kitchen where everything was always perfect. I mean, look at this. Look at this. Like, this is so fake.
I think that's what I'm hoping translates.
Can I
It's not. It's not. And I think she probably knew that at this point.
Netflix, of course. And so I feel like, you know, we were given a nice sense of you guys
No, you weren't. Drew Barrymore. You were not. You were not.
on a very beautiful, intimate note.
Thank you.
Every
She's so ridiculous. Oh, Drew. Like this overly touchy-feely thing. I can't stand it.
time I ever know anyone who knows you guys talk about how hot, this is the key word, everyone, and they're different people
What does
from
she know
different
to
walks
say?
of life. They go, they're so hot for each other.
Well, she hangs all over him. Are they really hot for each other, or is she constantly trying to love bomb him and get his attention that way? Or is that the only way she can keep him? Gotta wonder, because their life has not been rosy or fun.
Like, and it's hearing you, there is such
I mean, and they take this picture and he looks so freaking tense there. It's funny.
a romance to it. And every time I see a photo,
This is looks profiles are not Meghan's best feature. Catherine has a great profile. And I don't. So I'm not criticizing as just somebody who's like just being there. It's just you just notice it.
of you, you're holding hands, you're kissing.
Yeah. That's part of the act, Drew. That's part of the act. You know, people do that when they're trying to sell something. And that just does happen.
You are so affectionate.
Doesn't always mean there's love. Again, we've seen the show. It all looked beautiful. It all looked perfect, but it was hollow. You could say the same here. All the affection, the hand holding, the kissing, everything could just be hollow. It could be a hollow exercise in something, you know, she has demanded they do, because he wasn't like this necessarily with Chelsea. And again, look, his hands are in his lap and she's cupping his face. So
again, it's like, I know this is really you.
Oh,
oh, Drew, poor Drew.
yeah.
Because Harry, may I call him Harry? By the
Yeah,
way?
I call him
just
H.
blurted-
Yeah.
And again, Meghan calls him H. Harry is 2 syllables. I would probably just call him Harry. Maybe come up with something different. But I think Meghan calls Harry H to sort of, again, bring him down to her level. It's the same thing with the titles. She hates the fact that he's more important than she is. So she does whatever she can to level the playing field. And she does that, I think, with the names. He didn't go by that before. I think he went by Has. Why doesn't she go with the nickname sort of he's had forever? But no, she has to change it. And so he's H and she's M. And it's just weird. It's just weird.
Yeah, yes, of course.
Okay.
Again, she's grimacing so hard here. This is not, I don't feel like this is a friendly exchange. I think Meghan is dreading every second of being there.
That's his name.
Mr. Sussex.
She's like, oh, poor Meghan. Like, I think actually Drew's being authentic, which is a little scary in its own right. But Meghan, she's trying to put on the charm and failing miserably. And I feel like when she was younger and doing other interviews, when she was still Meghan Markle of Suits, she was a little bit more relaxed. This is just sort of trying really hard.
Harry, who
H, yeah.
I have always loved so much.
Oh, he's very lovable. He's easy to love.
I like, she says that a little bit, but I'm not sure I totally buy it, because Drew goes into something here that I think really irked Meghan. So let's watch.
He's been through extraordinary things. He's come out the other side. I admire some rebelliousness. I have some too. I think he's so amazing. I've been such a uber fan of his.
So she's talking about being an uber fan of Harry, but she's not really talking about being an uber fan of Meghan. And this comes back again in this interview. So I think Meghan's getting the sense here, or maybe she even got the sense before then, that Drew was more excited about her connection to Harry than her. But that would always be the case. That's sort of the futility of Meghan marrying into the royal family, is that she married in and just, I guess, didn't sort of fathom that when it came to being royal, that her husband would always be more influential, would always be more interesting, would always be something people gravitated to more than her. And I think you're seeing a bit of this tension here.
And I don't know him at all, but watching as we've all watched him, I got to meet his mom when I was 7 years old.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I have a
that's
picture
beautiful.
actually that I'll get. It's upstairs.
Oh, yeah, you have to share that with me so I can show him.
It's me
Meghan is not that interested in that because Meghan wants to talk about Meghan. She doesn't want to talk about Harry.
presenting her with an ET doll. And it was one of the most special moments of my life.
Oh.
And I loved her so much.
So this is, again, very interesting, is because Drew genuinely felt a deep connection to Diana. And I don't think Meghan really does. And Meghan hates the fact that, once again, her mother-in-law is more interesting, somebody people gravitate to more than her. And again, she married into this. She should know this, but she thought just by marrying Harry, some of that Diana magic would fall into her, and it definitely has not.
And I think the world of him, and he found you.
I mean, look, life is full of surprises. I did not expect to meet H, and for
Like, she just doesn't look too engaged to me. Life is full of surprises. You mean like when you like strategically moved yourself around to meet him? Yeah, that was a surprise, Meghan Markle.
this to be our love story. And, you know, I'm very lucky. I am married to the funniest, sweetest, most charming.
I mean, I think this mostly of what she's saying here is pretty genuine. Because looking up, you're kind of grabbing for words and trying to do stuff that's sort of what the eyes mean. But at the same time, I do think she's truly miffed that Drew is infinitely more interested in her husband and her mother-in-law than her.
I mean, he's all the things that you're describing. He's an amazing father. And so, you know, I count
What's with the dog? Does she like do adoption of dogs a week or something?
my blessings because I have him, and also I have a partner who is so supportive of me.
So again, she says a partner who's so supportive of me. She doesn't say a lot about supporting him and what he's doing. Oh, he's supportive of me. Again, it's the narcissism there. And yes, I mean that's true. You want a partner who's supportive of you. I get that. But Meghan wants this to be about her. And it's not about her because, again, she married somebody who people like a lot more than she does. I mean, she's got to drive herself crazy constantly with comparisons. And I bet you she can't stand it. But this is the life she chose.
And so I will tell you just, you know, when I was a babysitter nanny for 2 Irish Catholic families when I was in college.
I don't know if I believe this story or not at all.
And one of the dads said to me, he's like, you know, Meghan, when you meet your person one day, I want him to say to you the same thing that I said to my wife when we got married, which is, I vow to always date my wife.
I honestly don't believe any man would say that to a teenager. I honestly don't think any grown adult guy would go, yeah, when you meet your person, I don't know. Like my dad would never, ever say that. I know most guys would never, ever say that. That sounds like a woman saying that to another woman. Doesn't sound like a man said that. Now, could it be? Like, I'd more think that's maybe something her dad said or something rather than some random dude she used to babysit for.
And I told H that when we started dating. He goes, I vow to always date you. So we have this connection, I think, because we're so committed to treating each other the same way you did before you had a ring on it, before it was locked down.
Well, she definitely made sure to get it locked down really, really quickly. She did not want him to mess around. And that's part of the problem is they didn't really know each other when they married.
When you're just courting each other and you can see all the good and joy in that butterfly period. And that's, I think, what keeps things really alive.
But that's not reality. He lives in fantasy deluded land. Even if you really try hard, the mundaneness of life will be always there. It'll always be there. Yes, you will try more. I hope everybody in the couple relationship tries a couple of times a year to really bring back the magic. But after a couple of years, getting butterflies in your stomach becomes an increasingly rare occurrence. She, I think, has such a delusion of love, or she is trying to continue this facade fantasy and it just doesn't work. It's just silly. Like these women, if they actually believe that's what's going to happen in their marriage, good luck to you. Good luck to you.
And it becomes part of your love language. It's how you communicate without saying a word. You just show up for each other in those ways, big and small. And so,
That's just being a relationship, Megan. That's just being in a relationship. They have a really weird dynamic.
we love doing school drop off and pick up for the kids. We make it a point, at least, I don't know, during the week, our days are busy with meetings, but we have lunch together every day.
If your days are busy, how do you have lunch together every day? If you're both working different jobs, you both have different meetings. I imagine it would be hard sometimes to have lunch together every day. And we've heard from another interview that they go on lunch dates quite a bit. So I'm getting the sense that there's obviously somebody else watching their children. They are not, yet they never admit that they have nannies, which I think is a bit ridiculous. We all know she's not busy with work and watching the kids at the same time. Now, granted, they are going off to school, but I imagine they have nannies, they have housekeepers, et cetera, et cetera. I do not believe that they are so busy that they just manage to, create a time for lunch every day. I don't believe that. I don't believe they're working that hard, especially him now. He's essentially given up any semblance of work. He just wants to go to an event, ramble a bunch of nonsense, and get paid for it. And some people are willing to indulge that, but that's the reality of their life right now. So I just don't totally believe this story.
And have that middle of the day catch up of what's been going on, how are your meetings? Okay, great, back to it. But we just make it a point to date each other.
Yeah, that just doesn't sound like reality to me. That just doesn't sound like reality.
It's felt amazing.
She's really drawing out the pause there, trying to figure out a word. And so I'm curious what other words went through her mind. Tedious, monotonous, hard, difficult, challenging. But oh no, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, granted, some of it is amazing, I'm sure. But I don't think things are this rosy and glassy behind the scenes.
Honestly, it's felt just so amazing and fun just showing up. I mean, even being away and out here, I always make it a point when I'm traveling.
This is very interesting because she makes a flub here. She flubs.
If I can't do bedtime stories with my kids, because Archie and Lily are just 3 and 5, so I'll always pack a really thin book and I'll videotape myself reading it. So whoever's with them are.
She catches herself. Whoever's with them. You mean the nannies? Just say you have nannies, Meghan Markle. There is nothing wrong with you admitting that you have nannies. We know you don't do all this yourself. We know you don't clean your house yourself. Why are you trying to create a false premise? It's kind of like when people say they didn't take Ozempic when they took Ozempic and lost a bunch of weight, because it sets up a lie that people think, oh, I can just eat the way I normally am. I can just do this like this person did and lose a bunch of weight. And then they don't lose the weight because that person was lying, saying they weren't taking Ozempic when they were. And I feel like Meghan sets other women up for failure because she's essentially saying, yes, you can have it all. You can have lunch with your husband all the time, and you can spend all the time in the world with your children, and you can still work, and you can do everything. When we know she must have so many of her daily needs met by others. She doesn't have the burden of having to do all the cleaning herself, still working full-time, driving in and doing a commute to her job. She works from home. She gets so much of her life taken care of for her that I feel like when she just seems like, oh, it's so easy, we do all these things together, it's totally fine. I feel like other young women thinks that's true when that's just not. And then they get disappointed or their expectations are too high because Meghan is creating this false facade. And I think that's a disservice to other women, to be quite honest. So Meghan Markle, by omitting all the help they have, I think sets up a false world. But also at the same time here, she's admitting somebody else is with their children. And it's generally not her husband, because her first instinct is not to say her husband, but to say somebody else. So, or whoever is there. So is it her mom? It's her husband? Is it the assistant? Her nannies? Who's there, Meghan Markle? Because this was a flub I'm sure she's dreading that she did. So let's listen to it again.
And I'll videotape myself reading it. So whoever's with them, or Papa can say, here's Mama reading your bedtime story.
She caught it and she tried to change it. But I imagine whoever is there is more often the answer than Harry, because I don't think they're getting along super well.
You find ways to show up for each other. And if that's the one thing that I can convey through the show or through As Ever as a brand, I want people to know you can show up for each other.
What about your sister-in-law? You didn't show up for your sister-in-law, Meghan Markle. You didn't tell your fans, your rabid fans, to stop creating the where is Kate chaos on social media. You didn't give two craps about that. She doesn't show up for anybody but herself. So to say, just show up for yourself is a complete lie. She just can't. She has diarrhea of the mouth. That is what she has. And this is why her show is failing.
Because you know how good it feels when someone shows up for you. So thank you for sharing that.
But again, she didn't show up for her sister-in-law, her brother-in-law, her nephews and niece, her grandmother-in-law, her father-in-law, her stepmother-in-law. Any of those people, did she show up for them? No, they weren't special or important enough for her to do that. But she'll show up for a stranger like Drew Barrymore.
And also, we're gonna make some cookies.
Oh yeah.
And I literally cracked open your jam.
Oh yeah.
Got a spoon and went in and housed it. It's so good, you guys.
Oh,
and
thank you.
It's just jam. It's just jam. That's all it is. It's just jam.
And so we're gonna make some shortbread thumbprint cookies, and it has a little of the famous jam.
Yes, and I'll tell you.
So very interesting here. And of course, just as a reminder, this is how Drew Barrymore referred to Meghan on the show.
This is the Fast Five with Meghan Sussex.
So again, very odd. Very, very odd here. Meghan could have done so many different things, but this was a tense interview. It was an intense exchange. But let's get to something even more interesting, which is the reaction when Drew Barrymore actually found the picture of her with Princess Diana. Because Meghan Markle literally cringed and walked away from her mother-in-law, who she supposedly is rabidly referential to. It begins with one of the producers or one of the people on the show, who is also named Meghan, going and finding that very special picture that Drew Barrymore wanted her to.
Oh my Meghan.
Gosh,
this is Meghan.
Hi, nice to meet you. Wait, do you want to try a cookie while you're here?
Oh, okay.
No, here you go.
Meghan and I work together.
So this is very interesting. So Meghan, this other person comes up, she has a picture of Diana. Meghan supposedly loves her mother-in-law. Doesn't she want to see a picture of her mother-in-law in her host? Apparently not. Apparently not. And so she shoves her cookies in this producer's face. And honestly, I think the producer was like, I think that was sort of the reaction here. So let's continue to watch.
Tasty?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Really good. They're really good.
So Meghan goes, tasty. Yeah. And I don't think there was that tasty, to be quite honest. I don't think this young assistant was really all that interested in it. But she was a good sport. But golly, guys, that doesn't bode well. That doesn't bode well. And Meghan's additions are so simplistic. Cookies and jam. Seriously. That's not that impressive, Meghan Markle. So let's keep watching.
Oh, how sweet. Oh, that's beautiful. Nice to meet you, Meg. Oh my gosh.
Did Drew Barrymore call her Meg, or did Meghan just do that?
Look at your little face. Oh, that's so sweet. That is
So, like, when you listen to that, does that not sound like a very canned, oh, that's so sweet, look at your little face? Not, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. Harry would love this, or Asia, she calls him. Like, I wish I could have met her. She seems amazing. What was it like to meet her? What did you think? Meghan doesn't ask any of that because she wants to sell her jam, which is a crappy product, Meghan. That's probably why it's not going to sell as well as you are hoping it will. But anyways, let's keep going.
oh special. I mean, you had it here. Oh.
I was lucky enough.
So you'll notice Meghan gives the picture back and then literally leans and stands away from Drew Barrymore. She creates literally more space. She's literally leaning totally back as if she cannot stand for a second to be sharing the limelight with her mother-in-law, which is so funny because Harry and Meghan have talked ad nauseum about Meghan being the reincarnation, basically, of Princess Diana.
That's really special.
It means so much to me to have met such an incredible human being.
So I love that. It's really special. Yeah, she doesn't care. She doesn't care. And that's not a good look, to not care about somebody sharing with you about a personal experience with your very, very famous mother-in-law. But Drew goes even further, and I think Meghan, she's stewing because she wants these accolades and she's not getting them.
It transcended everything. It was the honor of my life.
Oh my gosh, well, I will tell H that for sure. And yeah, okay, cool.
Oh my gosh, Meghan Markle. And that's not a good look, Meghan. That's not a good look. And she's still literally leaning away as if petrified. Oh my gosh. Somebody's talking about your mother-in-law, which I assume you talk about quite a bit. Yet you seem to be so awkward and so hating every second of Drew even mentioning your mother-in-law. Not a good look.
Okay, cool.
Okay, please watch her amazing new show.
So let's go over this next little bit too, because this is quite interesting.
When I realized we were going to do this, I said, how many people are we making cookies for? And they said, count on the audience. I want the crew to be able to have some. So a friend of mine, she and her daughter had just finished a camping trip. I said,
so Meghan was like, okay, how many people are there? I'm going to make cookies for them. It's just a little weird. Like, she should have given the recipe to somebody else to make the cookies instead of flying halfway across the country or across the country. I'm sure on a private jet paid for by the Drew Barrymore show or Netflix with cookies of all things. Like, I understand that's what you're trying to sell, but those are lame gifts, Meghan. They're really lame. I'm sorry. It's really lame. And guys, I didn't think about this until later either, but those cookies, who knows when they were made? And they were flown across the country. How many times did they change hands? How many people interacted with that box? Were they sealed correctly? Is it up to standards? Like, she literally brought in homemade, like a mom would to a kindergarten class, cookies. That's really weird. It makes so much more sense to have somebody make them fresh in New York City, because she made those in Montecito, have somebody make them in New York City so that they can be their freshest and best, because this is how she steps off on her first footing, is to have the best product possible. Yes, I get it. She's making that little homey touch, and that would have worked to give a gift to Drew. It does not make sense for the audience though, and I don't think the audience would have been offended by that, because now I'm thinking, how many people touched those cookies? When were they made? The kids made them. Did they drool all over them? Oh my gosh, it's just like, ugh. It's ugh.
can you come by? And my friend Claire Waite Keller, who designed my wedding dress, she would come in from the UK to have lunch. I said, Claire, can I put you to work too?
So Meghan's wedding dress designer, who sort of got let go from Givenchy. I think she sort of left kind of weirdly from Givenchy. I don't think necessarily she wanted to go, but she was sort of pushed out. Her tenure there was very short. And it was after Meghan left the royal family. And so this poor woman gets dragged into helping Meghan make these cookies. Like, that's sort of awful. I'm sure Meghan could pay somebody to do that for her. But no, she wants to seem like, like she literally grabbed the help to help. It's just...
So we all sat around, we made these cookies for you guys to enjoy, and I just thought it'd be fun. Here, come over here.
And we have to show, of course, a little glimpse of Archie, and I think there's a little glimpse of Lilibet too. And I just hate these like little glimpses and little show that she's doing, trying to show how wonderful and lovely and amazing and welcoming she is, when she literally takes a friend, drags her to her home after she's done with a camping trip, and forces her into slave labor to make these cookies, even though she could have paid somebody to do it. And they would have done it perfectly fine. There's a lot of people in that area that are willing to do that, but she doesn't do that. So things are going a bit sideways for Meghan, needless to say. And the reaction to her series has been abysmal. Let's listen. Let's go over some of the lovely headlines we've gotten. So Vox recently said the impossibility of being Meghan Markle. She's not an expert like Martha Stewart. She's not an icon like Princess Diana. Where does she go from here? Not very far. Not very far. Barstool Sports tweeted the reviews of Meghan Markle's Netflix series claim it's so bad it's not even worth hate watching. So that even other outlets are getting into it is kind of funny. The Economist's title is Meghan Markle's new Netflix show is out of touch with the times. They essentially call her a modern day Marie Antoinette. Screen Rat says, with love, Meghan, I wish Meghan Markle's new Netflix show was as authentic and imperfect as it wanted to be. Meghan Markle's crushing Rotten Tomatoes score rating revealed. Let's look at the latest. It stands at 31% with critics and 18% with audiences. Now that is up from like 8 or 9%, but the Sussex squad, they're working really, really hard to try to make that a little bit better for Meghan. So Jack Royston posted, Meghan Markle's show labeled Duchess of Flops and Ratings Disaster. The reviews will have made difficult reading for Meghan. Hollywood Reporter says, with love, Meghan lacks a key ingredient. I would argue, I think they were saying love. An understandably guarded host makes for an oddly timed and unrelatable lavish lifestyle series, as early critics expected, including myself. Time says Netflix with Love Meghan is a royal primer on entertaining that couldn't be more boring. New York Post says Meghan Markle mocked by Netflix viewers for her basic one-man pasta dish. That's not food, that's punishment. That was from the New York Post. Alex Armstrong, who I don't know who that is, said, I don't normally comment on Harry and Meghan, but this was insufferable. The Variety says, which is a publication that previously published a glowing profile of Meghan as their women in power, said, with love, Meghan is a Montecito ego trip not worth taking. Irish Independent says, with love, Meghan review, Meghan Markle's new Netflix lifestyle show is bland, tedious, and empty. All I can muster is meh. Meghan Markle's pointless Netflix show trashed by UK critics as an exercise in narcissism. Telegraph says, with love, Meghan review, the Duchess of Sussex's new Netflix series is an exercise in narcissism filled with extravagant brunches, celebrity pals, and business plugs. And what's perhaps most interesting, and I probably need to do a whole video on this, is that despite all the hoopla, Meghan Markle's Instagram numbers haven't moved, really. So you guys see here, Meghan just still is at 2.2 million. Should that not be higher? She has a show on Netflix. She did a little bit on Drew Barrymore. It's very, very low and very telling that despite having it rise to number 5 on Netflix, she couldn't really get anybody to follow her page. And I think that is so indicative of Meghan's situation. And I'm sure a little bit of a crushing defeat for her. She made one little Instagram story about how, oh, I was so excited. It was in the top 10. I think internally, she is absolutely freaking out. She didn't expect to be just in the top 10. She wanted to be the number 1. And she thought everybody would love it because I think the unfortunate thing about the situation Harry and Meghan have created for themselves is that they hire people who tell them all the time how great they are. And then when those people try to give them their directions, they scoff at them and do their own thing. And they've done that again and again and again, and it's not working. In fact, it's failing. It's failing mightily. This is a disaster of Meghan Markle's own making. This did not have to happen. This was, I think, sort of expected at this point. This was what I was suggesting and many others as well. Meghan is just not likable. And I think what this whole series has shown is because she's told us time and time again, oh, you're going to see the real me, you're going to see the real me, you're going to see the real me. And I think more than ever, people are. And they're seeing through the facade. They're seeing through the fake grinning, the fake hand holding, the fake loving, all these sorts of things. And the show, I would argue, is a soulless, shallow vanity project. It doesn't have any depth. It doesn't have any love. It doesn't have any community. Even her own mother in that last episode hardly interacted with her. And I just think Meghan just cares about how things look and not about the warmth that exudes from within. She likes everything to be perfect. As Drew Barrymore said, oh, everything is beautiful, but it's not beautiful on the inside. And beauty is often fading. It doesn't last forever. So to go after the beautiful rather than the meaningful reveals a lot about Meghan. She has tried the same thing over and over and over again. And I think what's happens is, let's say she starts off here. Every time she gets into the public eye and is really trying to sell something, that pool gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because more people are picking up on the realities of Meghan Markle. She is having a much more difficult time of trying to claw her way back into likability status because the more we see, unfortunately, the less we like. And I think in the pantheon, everything Meghan has done, yes, the Oprah interview, yes, contributing to Spare, yes, all the other interviews and archetypes and the Netflix series and so many different things have all contributed to the downfall of Harry and Meghan. But I think this week in particular is Meghan's reckoning, is that she did something all on her own and people hated it. They just didn't like it. And I think that bruises the ego a lot because think about her other projects. When the other projects failed, she could blame Harry because he was part of it. This time, it was solely about her. He hardly participated in it at all, and it failed miserably. She's being mocked across the internet. And she has revealed her true self, and I think she didn't anticipate that outcome. She truly thought this was the greatest thing ever. And I think even early on, she was getting some pretty good indicators from Netflix. It's like, hey, this is not going to go well. We got the headlines. You can't ignore this anymore. I think Meghan for so long could ignore the naysaying because, again, she could farm off the blame to Harry whenever she wanted to. But this time, she can't blame Harry. She has nobody to blame but herself. It's all on her. And I'm sure to her that is just absolutely catastrophic to the ego. I think she'll have a hard time with her brand. The products are uninspiring. And I'm telling you right now, if her products are not the best ever, if she has shipment issues, if she has product issues, any of those sorts of things, it'll go across social media and she will get crushed by the negative onslaught. And again, she only has herself to blame. She rushed it. She botched it. She botched everything she could possibly botch this week, 6 ways from Sunday. And changing her name isn't going to help. Deflecting on Harry isn't going to help. This all belongs to Meghan. This is Meghan's flop, and she's going to have a tough time owning it, but that is the reality of the situation. So we shall see how the rest of this performs. I thought it would drop out of the top 10. It did bump from 6 to 5, but I imagine by this weekend for sure, it'll totally drop out because I don't think anybody's that interested. So guys, let me know what you think of this whole entire situation. I would love to get your thoughts. The chaos here is astounding. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed it, and I shall talk to you again soon. Bye.